What is up, my fellow viewers? I am Crunch Gamer, and welcome back to the Expedition Development Series. Today is episode 3. If you saw my community tab, you would know that this episode is going to be plants, animals, and other organisms. Today, I will cover a total of 12 organisms, 7 animals, 2 plants, 1 neozoid, 1 fungus, and 1 protist. But before we get into that, let's go over what features of the organisms I'm going to be going over today. We'll go over each organism's track, aggression, danger level, size, habitat, health, weaknesses and resistances, attacks, damage types, inflictions, harvests, appearance, normal behavior, interaction with the player, interaction with other animals, uses, strategy, database entry, and survival info. Now, I'm sure just looking at this list you're already having a heart attack, but don't worry, the description of all these features should go by pretty quickly. Let's start with track, short for soundtrack. This is any soundtrack related to the organism. Usually it has to do with when you're fighting it, but there are a select few exceptions. Aggression is how aggressive the organism is, specifically animals, towards the player. They can attack on sight, which is called aggressive, or they can attack under certain circumstances, which is called dependent, or they don't attack at all, which is called passive. With Dom aggressivium being in literally every animal you see, you'd be surprised at how many dependent and passive animals there are too. Anyways, next is size, also only for animals, which determines what kind of damage types the animal can receive. If an animal is normal sized, you can damage it with any weapon. If an animal is small, it can only be damaged under certain circumstances. If an animal is tiny, it can only be damaged by gas. Habitat is where an organism lives. It's as simple as that. Health is also just as self-explanatory. Weaknesses and resistances are actually something that only one animal has, for now. They basically give a percentage of how much an animal resists or doesn't resist a certain damage type. If it is resistant to the damage type, it takes less damage from that damage type. If it is weak to that damage type, it takes more damage from that damage type. I am saying damage type way too much. Attacks, or damage outputs for future non-animals, are, well, the organism's set of attacks or damage outputs. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Damage types are, well, the type of damage that an organism's attack is. How shocking. Inflictions are status conditions that can be, well, inflicted onto the player. Inflictions are always bad, at least for the player. Harvests are exclusive to plants, for now, and are the resources you can obtain from them. Appearance is its general appearance. Normal behavior is exclusive to animals and is how the animal normally behaves throughout its day-to-day life. Interaction with other animals is exclusive to animals and is pretty self-explanatory. Same thing with interaction with the player. Uses are the organism's use toward the player. Sometimes it will be the resources that it provides for the player, or sometimes it can be other things like having it deter aggressive animals for you. Typically, animals don't have practical uses, but in a future update, every animal will have use. Well, almost every animal. Strategy is the best way, in my imagination, of how to defeat an animal. The database entry is the in-game entry for the animal. Most of these profiles were created by Bioplanet. However, a few of them were created by Ark. Who is Ark? Well, they're actually the rows from episode 2 that I talked about. By the way, Ark stands for Association of Recreation. Anyways, the database entry also covers, or usually covers, organisms' lore and the organism's standout features, history, and other things. Survival info was created by Ark to give their followers tips on how to deal with each organism. It can cover how to deal with them attacking you or how to exploit them for survival. If the organism does not have a use, it will simply say useless. But anyways, now that that's all out of the way, let's finally get into the list of organisms. Let's start with the most boring and make our way up. Starting with the dog vomit slime mold. Yes, that's what it's called, but if you don't want to call it that, you can simply call it scrambled egg slime or flowers of tan, which doesn't really make sense because, I mean, look at it. It's not tan. Anyways, dog vomit slime mold is a protist that has no track, harvests, or damage outputs, and has a danger level of 0. Pretty boring, as I mentioned before. However, its habitat is dead tree logs. It's more interesting than everything just being neutral. It is yellow and bumpy all over in texture. It has no other depth to that other than just being a piece of growth. What would you even call this? Anyways, here is its database entry and survival info. Also, for every organism, I will show you a picture that I drew of said organism. This is the picture for dog vomit slime mold. It was pretty easy to draw, not gonna lie, because, I mean, just look at it. But it exists. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. So how was that? Not too bad, eh? Well, don't worry, it'll get more complicated from here, but also more interesting. Starting with turkey tail, a fungus with no track, harvest, damage outputs, and danger level 0, just like the dog vomit slime mold. Its habitat is live trees, and dead tree logs. It is flat and spade-shaped and comes in 3 different color variations: bluish-black, black with a hint of brown, and tan. And all of these color variations have creamish-white tips. And for its database entry and survival info, here it is. And the drawing I made for the turkey tail, here it is. The bluish-black one actually looks pretty good in my opinion, though the white and brown varieties don't really look that similar. Here's a comparison between real life and my drawing. I also didn't add the concentric circular things, but I didn't want to redraw it, so yeah. Okay, actually now the organisms are going to get a little bit more interesting, starting with the big leaf maple, a tree with large branches and large maple-shaped leaves, obviously. Just like the dog vomit slime mold and the turkey tail, it has no track, damage outputs, and has a danger level of 0. However, it does have 2 harvests. The first is tree bark, which is a somewhat essential crafting ingredient early game. They're a pretty weak crafting ingredient overall, but they're easy to get, somewhat. So, yeah. The other resource is a maple leaf. Maple leaves are used to craft leaf bandages and are absolutely essential for survival. Most aggressive animals in the game can inflict the player with bleeding, severe bleeding to be specific. If the bleeding is not taken care of, it will 100% kill the player. Bandages are the only way to stop bleeding. Now, yes, I know this isn't exactly realistic because you could possibly get infected if you just put a random leaf onto an open wound, but this is my best option in terms of game design, since my other option is a tourniquet, and yeah, that wouldn't work. But back to the bandage. This could be extremely unbalanced because as soon as you could get inflicted with bleeding, you would just pop a bandage and you would be fine, completely omitting the game design of the deadliness of bleeding. But I don't know any other solutions, so I'll just have to stick with this for now. Moving away from that, you can also climb the tree to get a better vantage point. As for its database entry and survival info, here it is. And the drawing, yeah, probably one of my worst drawings, but at least it's better than the golden weeping willow. Oh yeah, the golden weeping willow, that's our next tree. It's identified by its goldish-green drooping branches. Yes, the drooping things on weeping willows are branches, not vines. It has no track or damage outputs and has a danger level of 0, just like the maple. But it also has 2 harvests, also like the maple. It has tree bark, like the maple. How many times am I going to say maple? And weeping willow branches. These are absolutely essential in crafting. You want to make almost everything, you need weeping willow branches. These branches act as the ropes of my game. Also, like the maple, you can climb the willow to get a better vantage point, but with all those drooping branches, it's not as good. Or maybe it's better? I don't know. I have to climb a tree in real life. I'm going on a tangent. There's only one golden weeping willow in the starting map, and it's in the bioplanet ruins, which means you have to go there in order to craft basically anything. Anyways, here's its database entry and survival info. Okay, now for its drawing. Yeah, I know it doesn't look that good, but if you think about it just a little bit, you can see a weeping willow, right? Alright, now for the first animal of the video, the double-winged false fruit fly. This animal is passive, has no track, and has a danger level of 0. Its size is tiny, which means it can only be damaged by gas, as I mentioned before. How do you get gas? Well, we'll talk about that later in the next entry. The fly's habitat is suburban ruins and has a health of 0.1. Obviously not a lot of health because it's a fly. It has no weaknesses or resistances, as do all of the animals on this list except for one. Now, this animal may sound familiar to some of you. That is because this is the fruit fly with an extra pair of wings Poor created as a test to see if the DNA manipulation works. If you didn't know that, you can check out my second episode, which will explain the setting of the story. By the way, I have changed a few things around with the story, but it's not too big of a change. Like, together they might be a big change, but it's mostly not that big. Anyways, the fruit fly is small and bright orange in appearance and has 2 pairs of wings, as opposed to a normal fly's 1 pair. For its normal behavior, it will fly around or rest in suburban ruins. While it's resting, it'll occasionally clean itself. It has no interactions with the player or other animals besides flying away from them if they get too close. Well, flying away is a generous term, more like flying erratically. It has no uses, and for its strategy, well, just gas it and watch it fall to the ground. That's really it. Anyways, off with the necessary information, and now for some really cool, at least to me, unnecessary information I would like to share with you. That fun information is the fact that I spent some time, not that much time, but some time on this thing's taxonomy. Now, a few of you probably heard that and thought, oh, this guy's a nerd, but I'm sure most of you instead thought, what's taxonomy? And to answer the former question, yes, I'm a nerd. But about taxonomy in biology terms is the classification of living things. You probably know about domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Probably from the mnemonics such as, did King Philip come over for good soup? Taxonomy goes a little deeper than that, but those are the basics. But back to the fruit fly. Using taxonomy, I discovered that this thing isn't a fruit fly. You probably guessed that by the name. But what I'm sure you didn't guess is that this thing isn't a fly at all. All flies have halteres, which are basically stabilizers beneath their wings. They're hard to see on most flies, but on crane flies, it's blaringly obvious. But anyways, this fly does not have halteres, just 2 pairs of wings. And while, yes, it has the almost exact same anatomical structure of a normal fruit fly outside of that, sorry for the stutter, the extra pair of wings makes this thing, if we're classifying it by an anatomical perspective, not a fly. So what is it then? Is it part of Odonata? Dragonflies, damselflies, and those other weird dragonfly things? No, Odonatans start as aquatic larvae. This fly doesn't. So then is it part of Hymenoptera? That's how you pronounce it. Which are ants, bees, wasps, and sawflies? No, these things do not have ovipositors or stingers, at least as far as I know. So this fly is not any of those. And in that case, what is it? Well, after doing some research, yes, on Wikipedia, I deduced that this animal is part of a new entire order. I should have said entire new order, whatever. Duocornua. Now, I didn't look at all the insect orders, but I looked at most of them, and I'm pretty confident in saying that this animal belongs in an entirely new order. Okay, sorry for going on a nerdy tangent. Let's finish this up with its database entry and survival info. And, oh yeah, the drawing. Here it is. It basically just looks like a normal fruit fly, but if you look closely, you can see an extra pair of wings. I think this is one of my best drawings in the episode. Okay, I know you want to see, like, actually exciting animals, and you will. We just gotta do this one last organism, which is tranquilizing fingers, a fungus with fruits that look like small cylindrical stalks that also lives inside animals. Sound familiar? Well, that's because this fungus is the invasive fungus that I talked about in episode 2. But anyways, for its stats, it has no track or damage outputs and has a danger level of 0. However, like I described in episode 2, you can interact with it while you have an blazing torch to make it release a sedative gas. This is the only way to collect gas. This gas can be collected in a pouch to use against enemies. Just be careful not to gas yourself. You can only get this gas when the animal the fungus is inhabiting is either sleeping or subdued, though sleeping is much harder due to the animal's likelihood of waking up if you get too close. As for its database entry and survival info, here it is. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. Now for its drawing, I think I did a pretty good job since the fungus's fruits don't look very complex in the first place. Also, why am I saying fungus in air quotes, you may be wondering? Well, I asked my friend how I would classify this thing since it uses photosynthesis and has mycelium, which means that it has the cell structure of both plants and fungi, 2 different kingdoms. He said some things that made me decide to put it in a new kingdom, which I haven't named, but it's in a new kingdom. Alright, now we can get into the animals. Starting with the most boring, the Swainson's thrush, a small perching bird identified by its dull brown feathers with white belly feathers with black spots. It has 2 tracks. A track when you get too close to it and it flies away, called Flutter, Flutter Away. Yes, that's what it's called. I couldn't think of anything else. And a combat theme called Hair Pullers. Its habitat is coniferous forests, deciduous forests, mixed forests, and suburban ruins. By the way, from now on, when I talk about all the 3 forest types at once, I'll just say forests. It has a danger level of 2, has 5 health, and its aggression is dependent. I already explained what dependent means at the beginning of the video, so I won't explain it again. But in the context of Swainson's thrush, it means that if you keep chasing it a far enough distance, it will eventually, after flying away each time you chased it before, turn to attack you. No need to worry though, as all of its attacks do 0.2 damage. Yeah, this thing isn't very dangerous at all. These minimal damaging attacks are a peck, a diving peck, and a harassing peck. The harassing peck is basically those videos that you might see on TV where a baby bird fell out of its nest and someone is trying to put the baby bird back in its nest and the adult parent birds get so mad that they fly around the person's head and constantly peck at them. Yeah, that. Also, all of its attacks are the damage type stabbing and have no inflictions. By the way, I may get rid of damage types. Maybe, we'll see. Also, weakness. Same for weaknesses and resistances. For its normal behavior, they are usually flying around looking for food or perching on a branch, chirping and sometimes preening themselves. Sometimes they will be hopping around on the ground looking for fruits and seeds to eat. If another animal comes close to it, it will fly away, but usually only a few yards. It has no practical uses and its size is small, which means, like I said at the start of the video, that you can only damage it under certain circumstances. For the Swainson's thrush, that circumstance is grabbing it out of the air and violently beating it while it's still in your hand. If you don't want to do this, however, and be a pacifist, you can throw a dart at it or use gas, though the former strategy can only be performed while the bird is sitting still. As for its database entry and survival info, here they are. Lastly, we have its drawing, and here it is. Not bad, but not the best, in my opinion. Next, we have another bird, the Canadian goose, a brown water bird with a black neck and white head. Its track is anglebiters, which I think is a pretty fitting name. It is aggressive and its size is normal, which means that you can damage it with any weapon. Also, to save some time, all the animals following the Canadian goose are aggressive, so I don't have to say that they're aggressive. Its danger level is 5, but in a group it is 8. Only animals that tend to be in a group will have group danger, by the way. Its habitat is suburban ruins, ponds, and near ponds, and grasslands. Dang it. Messed that up. It has 20 health and has 1 attack, a bite, which does 12.5 damage. The attack's damage type is pinching and has no inflictions. When not brutally assaulting you, they usually hang out with approximately 15 other geese. They'll hunt for food scraps in suburban ruins and fish near ponds and in ponds. It doesn't really interact with other animals besides hunting fish, and it will occasionally honk or flap their wings at other geese if they're doing something they don't like, which is like randomly anything. Geese are so obnoxious. Anyway, for its strategy, basically just bring a good bark or stone weapon, and now it's wood because I changed from wood to bark, but bark could. I don't know. I changed some stuff around. But be sure to bring a shield, as it's almost impossible to just fight one goose. If you try to fight one goose, all the other 14 or so goose are going to come swarming at you. It has no practical uses, and here is its database entry and survival info. And its drawing, here it is. I think I did okay on it. Now we're getting into the more dangerous animals, starting with the bald-faced wasp. It's black and white in coloration, giving it a piebald look. And if you don't know what that is, it's a morph for specific animals, which basically makes them black and white, like this horse. The bald-faced wasp isn't actually piebald though, it's just named after the piebald morph. Anyways, its track is little stingers when it's alone and swarmed when it is in a swarm. Speaking of swarms, its danger level is significantly higher when it's in a swarm, going from 3 to 10. The bald-faced wasp is also our other tiny animal in this video. Its habitat is just forests and sparsely in other areas like grasslands and basically anywhere. It has little health, being 0.5, and has only one attack, a sting. It deals 0.25 damage. Not a lot by itself, but it can very quickly add up when there are 100 wasps stinging you. This attack's damage type is stabbing and has no inflictions. When not engaged in combat with the player, it will either be flying around looking for flowers to pollinate or mingling in their nest. Though currently in Expedition 0.1 there's only one nest, which is located in the southern end of Dakota Forest. By the way, these are real locations that you can see on Google Maps. I encourage you to look at that, just to give you an idea of what the map of Expedition is in 0.1. Anyways, it has no practical uses, and from now on, no animal will have practical uses, aside from the last one. Also, I forgot to mention, it's not aggressive when it's just flying around, but if it's in a swarm, it's 100% aggressive. But anyways, here's its database entry and survival info. And the drawing. I honestly like it a decent amount. I think this is one of the best drawings in the episode. Alright, only 3 more to go. Let's start with the mule deer. It's just your average deer, and that's all I'm going to say. Though it does have a black tip on its tail, which differentiates it from other deer. That will come in a later version. Its track is called Wild Battle, though I might change the name of that since I couldn't figure out what else to call it. Its danger level varies between genders and ages. Males have a danger level of 11, while females have a danger level of 9, and babies have a danger level of 0. Males are just aggressive, while babies are passive, which means that they'll run away from you, but try to stay close to their mother, or at least somewhat, in the process. Females are dependent, which in their case means that they will run at first, but if you chase them even a little bit, they'll turn to attack you. All variants of the mule deer live in forests, but you'll sometimes see them grazing in grasslands or grassland forest edges. Both the male and female have 300 health, though the baby only has 30. Babies can't attack since they're passive, but the adults can. Both genders have a buck attack that deals 75 damage and inflicts bodily shock, a status effect that decreases movement speed, and attack damage. This buck attack's damage type is beating. There are also 2 other attacks exclusive to the male, a headbutt and a charging headbutt. These attacks deal 65 damage and inflict moderate bleeding, a status effect that deals damage over time, but not as much as severe bleeding, and not for as long. The headbutting attack's damage type is stabbing, by the way. When not attacking / running away from you, the mule deer will often graze their habitat for grass to eat. Males will sometimes scratch their antlers on bushes or trees, while females will always stay close to their babies and vice versa. Also, for interaction with other animals, males will sometimes fight other males, and females will always stay close to their babies and vice versa, as I mentioned before. They don't really have any interactions besides this. As for its strategy, just bring a shield and any sort of weapon. If you see it recoil slightly, hold up your shield or dodge because it's about to attack. The normal headbutt can be dodged with a back hop, while the charging headbutt and butt can be dodged with a side hop. Also be sure to bring some tree leaf bandages to deal with the bleeding. Here's its database entry and survival info. And the drawing. Sorry. Yeah, it looks a little silly, but honestly, I'm proud of it, since it's a mammal and I am not good at drawing mammals. Next, we have the Dilophosaurus, a very dangerous forest and grassland dwelling animal that can be identified by its dull brown scales and darker brown protofeathers and its red crest. Its track is the same as the mule deer's track, Wild Battle. Its danger level is even higher than the deer, being 13, the highest danger level we've seen so far. It has 400 health and 3 attacks, a bite, a charging bite, and a tail whip. The biting attacks both deal 75 damage and have the biting damage type, who would have thought, and also inflict severe bleeding, which is a much more deadly version of moderate bleeding. If you don't cure severe bleeding, you will die. The tail whip, on the other hand, inflicts bodily shock and deals 65 damage. Its damage type is whipping, though I may change that to be more accurate. When it bites you, you can obviously just get out of the way, but if you dodge it and remain in close proximity, it will, barely with any warning, lunge and bite again. This will continue to happen if you dodge its bites but continue to stay near it. If you get behind it faster than it can turn to face you, it will perform its tail whip attack and will continue to swipe its tail back and forth until you come out from behind it. While they aren't attacking you, Dilophosauruses patrol their territory regularly in search for food. Sometimes they will rub their faces up against a tree to scratch an itch, or scratch the itch with their foot. They will sleep periodically, as do all animals, more so during nighttime. As for its interactions with other animals, it will sometimes try to hunt animals that are around its size, like deer. But what if you want to defeat this thing? Well, basically the same strategy of the mule deer applies. Bring any sort of weapon, a shield, and bandages. Also, the bites can be dodged with a side hop, and the tail whip can be dodged with a back hop. As for its database entry and survival info, here they are. Now, the drawing I'm actually quite proud of. I think it's pretty good, but that's no surprise since I draw theropod dinosaurs the best. Alright, one more animal to go. And I have saved the deadliest for last, the Allosaurus, a medium-sized theropod identified by its dull orange and blue scales and red crest. Its track is called a brute force of teeth, which is absolutely true to this fearsome creature. Its danger level is a whopping 16 and has 4 attacks: a bite, a charging bite, a tail whip, and a stomp. If the Allosaurus gets close up to you, it will perform its bite attack, which follows the same principles as the Dilophosaurus' bite attack. If it spots you from far away, it will run at you and try to bite you. Both of these attacks do 200 damage. If you end up behind it faster than it can turn around to face you, it will attempt to whip you with its tail, which will deal 90 damage. This attack also follows the same rules as the Dilophosaurus' tail whip. And finally, if you end up under the Allosaurus, it will attempt to stomp on you. This stomp does absolutely insane damage, at first dealing an instant 150 damage, but then dealing 65 damage per third of a second. Yeah, you do not want to end up under this thing. This stomp also inflicts bodily shock, though that doesn't really matter as you're probably going to die from it anyway. Its bite attacks inflict severe bleeding, and its tail whip also inflicts bodily shock. The stomp's damage type is crushing, the biting attack's damage type is biting, and the tail whip's is whipping. Oh, and to make this battle even more difficult, the Allosaurus takes less damage from all damage types except beating, which it's slightly weak to, and gaseous, which it doesn't have any resistance or weakness to. This animal is supposed to be a sort of mini-boss, only to be taken on by the most experienced of players. There is basically no safe side of the Allosaurus, which makes this fight extremely challenging. But if there's no safe side to this fight, then how do you beat it? Well, after dodging some of its attacks, it will start breathing out of its mouth because, well, it's tired. This is your chance to strike. If you throw a dart into its open mouth, then it will be stunned for only a few seconds. This is your moment to get some hits in. Once it comes back from being stunned, simply tire it again, which will take less time, and repeat the process. This tactic might be a little bit repetitive and boring, especially since this thing has 800 health, but I think it's okay for now. Additionally, if you're an absolute Giga Shad, you can stun the Allosaurus before it opens its mouth. You can do this by throwing a dart at its eye. This is extremely hard to do, but can make the fight go by quicker since you don't have to wait for it to open its mouth. I really like the option to make the fight quicker, but you need to be skilled to make it quicker. Anyways, now for the less violent details. Its habitat is forests and grasslands. It will sometimes hunt animals smaller than it, though most animals avoid it. For uses, it actually has one that's kinda not practical, but I still wanted to include it. Since most animals are afraid of the Allosaurus, you can actually go near an Allosaurus, making sure the Allosaurus doesn't see you, to avoid any conflict with other animals. For its strategy, I sort of already mentioned it, but just be sure to bring a club of sorts and make sure it starts seeing you from afar, which will make it perform its charge bite attack, which is easier to dodge than a normal bite, though this only works in open areas. Also, it tires it out quicker, so yeah. Anyways, here is its database entry and survival info. And here is its drawing. I think this is the best one. I'm quite proud of this. This is, honestly, I think the best drawing I've ever drawn. This is really paleo art. That's at least what I feel. And that's it. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit redundant and not much of a narrative. I will hopefully get better at videos as I go, and the dialogue will be much better to listen to. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Anyways, freedom in Christ, and I'll see you guys next time.